All right, guys, we are back on site. Sun ain't shining, but it is a good morning. It's Friday. We've got the porch cedar post all framed up. We did that yesterday. So today we're gonna start installing the handmade rafters, get our fascia, our purlins. We got sheathing showing up. Unfortunately, my supplier, they were unable to source zip for some reason. He's having a hard time getting 5/8 zip. Like, it's just not common here in the Midwest. It's getting there. Probably my fault because I didn't reach out soon enough, so he has just not been able to get it. So we're just gonna use standard OSB, which honestly, zip is probably overkill for what we're trying to do. This case, I'm not really worried. Yeah, I love to use the zip, but we're gonna go ahead and use regular 5/8 OSB. I recommend if you're gonna use sheathing on a roof and then put screws into it, either get the appropriate screws for OSB or make sure that you use a minimum of 5/8 of an inch. If you only use a 7/16 or 1/2 inch OSB sheathing, your screws might not have the necessary holding power. So just a little tip. What we got to do this morning is first finish out our house wrap. We took all these temporary braces off. Now we can run our house wrap around. I got to frame a walk door right here. We should be able to get all this wainscot ran. We get this garage door finished and trimmed out, and then we can start building all this roof here. Now that I've got the opening defined, I'm just gonna use my laser, easy and visible here, this Stabila green laser. Good day for it. Yeah, it's really good. Just gonna mark the door jamb side. One thing I'll say is when you're doing a line laser like this application, you wanna try to make sure it's as perpendicular to your surface that you're marking as possible, because if it's on an angle and this board was sticking out just slightly more than the board down there, they could have a difference of, the plane is different, therefore it could be in a different spot. Yeah, just try to be as perfect as possible. I'm sure we're splitting hairs here, but why not? All right, now what I gotta do is measure up 4 inches from the bottom of this grade board. That's gonna give me my finished floor height. Now we have this nice level jamb for the door to set on. That's not enough, so what we do is we take another piece of ground contact treated, and we're gonna laminate this grade board, which is gonna give us more surface area for our door to set on, but also it's gonna help stiffen up, you know, the structure that we just cut out. Not that we're super worried, because we are going to be running, there will be concrete in here, and that's gonna really stiffen everything up. You need help there, Greg? Want to just get it started?
Hold the roll for me.
What's that? Hold the roll? Know your roll?
Hold the roll.
Let me help you out, my guy. That's what friends are for.
Can you hold it?
That's what friends are for. What can I say?
You on this corner yet?
Ooh, perfect.
Can you have that drill there, Kyle?
That's my drill.
I just need to use it for like 2 seconds.
But I was going to use it right now. Just a tip, make sure you are using a treated approved screw if you're going into lumber that has been treated. Had to make sure that we rip down these 2x6s because our columns are not an exact 5.5. What that allows us to do is just try to keep this plane consistent. We didn't used to rip them down, and what we noticed, if a door or a window was super close to a column and we ran our framing through, it was about an 1/8 inch out of plane, and nobody ever noticed it, but I just think overall it just makes things a lot easier if you make sure everything is, you know, on the same plane. Ooh, like a glove. Hey, thanks. This two-sided ladder
I know.
just became our friend. Want to bring that ladder over here so I can use it? No, seriously though, you done with it? Right above you, Greg.
This one drop anything on me? I'm not wearing my hard hat.
I won't, promise.
I mean, not that I really have anything to protect up there, but... Did I just diss myself?
I think so. But you were speaking truth. Your mama told you to always be an honest person, so I don't think you did anything wrong in that situation. Greg, why don't we invent a ladder that is good? Or is that an oxymoron? What I want to do is I want to invent a ladder that you climb up in and it protects you around all four sides, but you can move it around the job site. Okay, go ahead, man. One more screw.
Dude.
What's wrong, man?
But I had a lot of people ask me who was building it. I said, I don't know.
Yeah, that's what most people. Well, what is it though? Are they building a Morton building? Are they building a Menards building?
Is it a special name for this building?
RR buildings. That's it, man. This is custom. This is like our package that we've put together over the last 6-7 years of doing it. What is the best we can offer at the value? I mean, you could get a thicker gauge steel. You don't need it.
Right.
You don't need it. You know, this is engineered for this application. You could spend $1,000 on a window. You don't need it.
Right.
We've tried to get everything that we could to make it look good, clean, you know.
I had quite a few people around here ask me, you know.
Yeah.
Wonder. I said, stop it.
No, don't tell them that. No, we don't get anything done when people stop in. Case in point. We are fortunate. We've usually got really good customers. Yeah. And that's the thing. I've been doing it for, you know, 2007. And I've only had one customer.
So, did you start with somebody else then?
No, I always just worked for myself.
Oh, really?
Got right into it I remodeled my own house and I just kind of fell in love with it. So I flipped a house by gutting it. And then people, you know, found out that I was doing it. So they started asking if I do this little job, that job, and just, I mean, there's years of practice.
Now, what about over here?
Yeah, I picked up Greg when he was 18 and I mean, other than like helping around at his house with his parents or something, you know, I mean, he didn't know much. So, yeah. So the good thing is like he only knows what I taught him, which doesn't mean it's right, but it means that it's our way.
Yeah.
You know, so we don't have to, there's no Greg saying, well, I learned it this way. Because I had a guy that was like that, and he wanted to always tell me how he learned it.
Right.
But at the end of the day, my name is on the responsibility list of who's gonna.
And you know yourself, sometimes you'll find out yourself there probably is easier ways to do stuff.
Always. We're always learning.
Yep.
Yeah.
I mean, I ain't saying it's the right way, but it was a lot easier.
Hell yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
And quicker.
And that's the constant goal is, and I think that's why we are successful is like, we don't just do the everyday standard thing.
Right.
It's like, let's do it this way. Like, let's try this.
Yeah.
And then like when you look at like our door trims, when you look at some of our details, these porches, they're all in a search for like efficiency and maximum quality with like a visual aesthetic appeal, you know? Can you square up that end, Greg?
Yeah.
This side. It's a constant race. I mean, you're always obviously want to make money.
Yeah, and like this stuff here, it's hard to get good quality material.
Yeah, you got to be, you know, selective to a degree, but at the same time, our suppliers know that like I'm super fussy, and they know there's a camera here. Yeah. Everybody is held to a higher level of like perfection because they know they have to. Okay, I got to go get my square so I can frame this. These are just some hand-framed rafters, and we probably don't need to use a 2x12, but it just feels good, nice and solid for, you know, doing since we are spanning 8 foot with these, all the weight is bearing on these in that 8 foot space. So I'm gonna find my phone here, figure out all my pitches, my dimensions to cut these. We've got a 9-foot run entirely because we've got an 8-foot porch, 1-foot overhang. So our roof structure has a 9-foot run and is at a 412 pitch. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna type into my Construction Master Pro calculator 9-foot run, 4-inch pitch. That's gonna give me a 3-foot rise and a diagonal of 9, 5, 13, 16. I don't really care about that right now because that is the dimension from the tip edge of our fascia to the building on the diagonal. So that's our actual roof length. But since I am going to be running a 2x4 purlin on top of this, I need to actually drop this down, the dimension of that purlin, so that the roof planes in perfectly, and you'll see that as we put it together. So I already know that on a 412 pitch, my 2x4 is 3 inches and 11/16. So I'm gonna subtract that 3 inch 11/16 from 3 foot, and that's gonna get me 2 foot 8, 5/16. What that means is that the new rise of my triangle that I'm trying to create is 2 foot 8, 5/16. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go 2 foot 8, 5/16 rise, 412 pitch. That's gonna give me a new run of 8 and 15/16 and a diagonal of 8'6", 3/16. So now what I can do is I can go ahead and hook this 412 pitch that I put on the top. That's gonna go up on my wall. I can come down to 8'6", 3/16. And that's where my reverse 412 pitch is gonna start. I'm just gonna bring my framing square that's already set up for a 412. I'm gonna bring it out to that. Flip it over. And there we go. And what I like to do is I set all these up. I check crown on them, so crown was up, and I flush the top side. Now I'm gonna go ahead and I could get the beam saw out, and I probably would like to, but I don't have my power station, and I'm pretty far away from power right here, so I'd have to move everything. I'm just not gonna do that. The nice thing about cutting on the pile too, is as you're making these long cuts and you get out to the end, if you don't have anything underneath of this, like supporting it, it can roll and it can mess up this last little bit because your saw can just slightly roll and it just throws off the pitch. So I do like to cut on a pile. And now when I take this guy off, I've already got my next one already marked. So even though it's not maybe as quick as doing the beam saw, this is kind of like the next best thing. Just set them all up in a pile and go right through them. You think that would make it all the way? What is it, a 25 footer? Or is it 50?
I think it's 25.
Yeah, I don't think it's long enough, dude. I gotta figure out where my purlins are on these guys before I separate these. That way I can mark those all at the same time as well. I gotta do math again, Zach. Let's see, I always have to do this. One of these days I'm gonna write this down. So we're gonna go 3/16 on top of that. So 10 and 11/16 on a plane hits the front of my point there. 10 and 11/16. So we're gonna go minus, so 23 and a quarter minus 10 inch. That's 12 and 9/16. So what I just figured out is that when I put this up on my roof plane, if I hook this guy here and come up 12 inches, 9/16 and put my purlin above that line, that is gonna be perfect for a 2-foot spacing flush off of the plane on my fascia. Just remember, all of this work right here will definitely save you time from doing it up on the roof. So now what I'll do is I'll just go ahead and hook this nail head. I'll mark every 2 foot. Now I can square all of these marks down on my pile. Everything is going to be consistent from one to the next, and as I cut one and then I pull it off, I'll just screw the next one in line to that, and everything should be nice and consistent all the way through. All right, so there's one all marked, ready to go. Now I can just take my saw, run it right through the line. Actually, we're gonna go ahead and we're gonna try to be consistent. Just put a screw to hold it in place. And basically I'm just gonna repeat this process, but I'll save you guys from the pain of watching it. All right, so when we're up here on the porch and we're framing our, I guess what I would say, handmade rafters, I've already done all the math, so I know exactly where they're gonna land. I'm just gonna go ahead and give me some marks. And the angle of this pitch of roof with the run that it is, which is 9 foot, where my rafter is gonna be at is 2 foot 8 and 5/16. And that is the top of my 2x12 rafter. So if I did things correctly, let me grab it. I should be able to put this up. I'm gonna go ahead and get a little toenail started, and we will come back and use hangers. I don't have them today. I kind of, I guess, failed on that. We'll come back and do it, so don't worry, everybody. Now, when I set this here, I'm gonna go ahead, make sure that I'm good on my outside. See, I've already got that line, and we might have to do a little bit of tweaking to get it to line up perfectly. Okay, we're right on the top here. We got a nice, we're flush here. We will do some more framing on this as well, but mathematically off of the wall, I should be 8 foot 15/16. So these are all just checks. I mean, if you're a 16th off on this, it's probably not that big of a deal. But what I like to do is always put those dimensions that I know mathematically are correct, and then try to make everything line up perfectly. So I'm gonna suck that down, that's gonna suck this down, and then I'll do some framing on top of this to kind of hold it all together. But this is kind of how we make our homemade trusses. Because we're doing post frame with a purlin on top, these are actually recessed that 3.5 inches, so that when we put these purlins on, you can see my marks on the top of that purlin will plane in perfectly with the edge of our fascia out here. And that's pretty important to use math because it makes it a lot easier. So we're gonna do that on all these and just get everything temporarily braced, and then we'll come back through later with hangers and hang everything so it's not gonna go anywhere, and we'll get some hurricane clips to tie it down to the rafter as well. Okay, that's not gonna go anywhere for now. We can do that to all of these, get them up, and then we'll run our purlins once we get our trusses up. That'll hold that for now. Gotta move this one just a little bit. So what that could be is, because this was a little bit higher than where I wanted it dimensionally off math, a couple things could be happening. The wall right here where this is going could be out a little bit further than I want. So, you know, with post frame, we've got a timber going from the foundation to the truss, and that's all one piece. All it takes is just a 1/4 inch bow to throw this off here. So we're gonna force it to be where it's supposed to be, and that kind of will move the lumber where we want it. So there's our rafters. These are, you know, it's kind of a, I don't know, I haven't really seen anybody else do it this way specifically. I mean, there's nothing new about a 2x12 rafter, but the way we kind of drop it in for our purlin, we use this 2x6 as a perfect way to get our overhang. So we're gonna be able to cut this off perfectly for a straight overhang from end to end, and then it's already 5.5 inches tall, so it gives us the fascia and a nice solid connection all the way across, instead of putting a tail on top of a rafter like we do on our trusses up here. So I think it's a great way to do it. You definitely got to take some consideration for like uplift, so we got to do some hangers and some bracketry to keep it all down to that column. But it's a super strong roof. We'll get these other rafters up for this corner. start running our purlins. We're gonna start defining this roof here, so be pretty cool. Yeah, it's turning out pretty good so far. Let's see this magic come together. Don't let me down, math. I'm excited to see if this is turned out right or not. Oh, sick, dude. That is awesome. Look at that, Greg. Put that sucker up there. Not even get any better. Math never lies. It really is nice when things come together. This is perfect. I mean, this is like, I think this is right where I want it, Greg. Let's get all this sheeted in so it's nice and solid. Let's check for square. So we're 113 3/4. Right there, 233 7/16, Greg. Let's check it. 233 5/8. Here's what we need to do, man. We need to wedge a board up underneath one of these corners here and give this a little shove towards Greg. Dude, we're about a 1/16 away. More, you got it, man. More. You got it, dude, you're right there. All right, so we talked about it before. We use a sheathing underneath our steel only on our porches typically, or any roof that is underneath an upper roof. That's so we get some of those big snowfalls piled up on that roof and then they let go on a nice sunny day, or really any day, because the UV rays will come through clouds, heat up that metal roof, and release that snow, and it can come down, and we don't want it to drop with all that weight and damage this roof. One thing to ask if you are getting a building like this put up by a builder, post frame builder, ask them if they're sheathing your roof. They're probably not, but it's a good thing to think about.
Look at that. LVD plywood.
Now go up your line and make sure it's tight to your nail. Okay, go ahead, hit all your joints. Right there, man, hit them.
Yeah, like it.
Yeah, love it, hit it. Pop, pop. Just like when we are installing steel on our upper roof, when we're using sheathing, we're gonna go ahead and we made sure that our tails were strung with a string line, snapped and made perfect. Then we come in with this sheathing, and if we start square, so we squared up our roof up there, then we ran up this line on our purlins that we made that is exactly 1 foot overhang with the edge of this sheet. It's gonna create a perfect straight line, and it's turning out just like we hoped. Perfect. All right, so we got our last rips on here. Definitely helps by using the sheathing as a straightener. Got to make sure that your roof is square. You got to make sure that all these structural points, our tails on our rafters, are all straight in a line, and the rest all comes out with the sheathing. You got to at least use a 5/8 OSB, or you can get away with a 7/16 plywood, but most steel nails or steel screws do not hold very well in a lesser OSB. Yeah? That's where I want it. I would love to show you more about this porch detail, what we did today, but man, I'm in a hurry. It's Friday. I got friends coming over. My wife is probably gonna be mad at me that I'm not home yet. So we're gonna be out of here. We'll get back, I'll show you what we did, and then we'll start working on the roofing details, trims, and all that whatnot on the porch. So thanks a lot, stay tuned. Make sure you hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. I'm in a big hurry, so I'm gonna let you guys go. Have a good one, and we'll catch you back on the next one.